Hi there and welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm IceMan and today we're going to take a look at a group we've not done before on this channel. We're looking at AOE Debuff Stippers. So what are AOE Debuff Stippers? Well, it's basically what they sound like. So these guys have an ability on them that removes all debuffs from all allies. Now there are some slight variations, mildly, in one or two of the champions, but that is basically what they all do. Now I will start off by clarifying, before anybody says, oh, you've left out this champion, you've left out that champion, I am purposely not including champions that only remove a single debuff from allies, or random debuffs from allies, or any of this weird stuff like that. There's far too many to cover them all doing that. These are the ones that literally remove all debuffs and completely cleanse your entire team, and that's what we're looking at today. So why is that important? Well, many reasons really. First off, one of the best uses for these guys is as a follow-up champion in the arena. You stick them in an immunity set so they can't get anything on them themselves, can't be stunned, frozen, feared, any of that stuff. You put them in your arena team, bang, the enemy goes first and puts out a debuff on all your team that freezes everybody and stops them from being able to do stuff. It's a pain in the arse. We all know it's a pain in the arse. It's horrible when that happens. You're like, yes, I've got this great team. Damn, they're faster. How do you fight that? Well, this is how you fight that. It's not 100% foolproof. It still depends on your team being good around it and having the right speed tunes and all the rest of it as best you can. But it can save your skin in a pinch. So the idea is they've managed to go first, bang, they've stuck decreased defense on you, fears on you, frozen you, whatever it is. This champion on the other hand is sitting there with an immunity set. They don't get frozen, they don't get all of these debuffs. They come in with this ability that just strips all the debuffs off of all your champions. Bang, now your champions are fresh, raring to go, no longer stunned. Don't get me wrong, you are better off, if you can, for the arena, putting all your champions in immunity gear, because then you're not going to get that from the start. You're not going to get turn meter decreases and all the, well, turn meter decreases you might do, I'm not sure on that one. But obviously when you get frozen, that takes your turn away. When you get stunned, that takes your turn away. This will still happen, and therefore it's still hard to get back into the fight because of this, which is why I say you're better off having everybody in immunity gear if you can. But if you can't, put it on a cleanser. The cleanser goes, bang, rips all of this stuff off of your champions. At least your champions are no longer got decreased defense, decreased attack, fear, stun, frozen, you name it, any number of poisons. Yeah, all these debuffs that are, all these poisons that are a right pain in the backside, they'll come along, they'll remove it all, and they give you a fighting chance to get back into the fight. That's the first place that they're really, really useful. The next place they're really useful is in pretty much all content really, across the board. You're going through dungeons, you're going through Doom Tower, particularly on waves and stuff, on bosses. There's that one particular boss, the Griffin, I think it was. I can't remember which one off the top of my head right now. I think it might be the Griffin. Well, it could be, oh no, it's the Nether Spider I'm thinking of, sorry, whereby you really need you really need debuff strippers in there to remove those poisons and keep you in the fight. Don't get me wrong, it still probably helps on these other things as well, possibly for the Griffin and stuff, because they're also putting your own debuffs back on you and stuff like that. So cleansers are definitely a big help throughout the game, particularly in Doom Tower. So today's video, that's what we're doing. We're looking at these champions that can come along and strip all your debuffs. Are there champions that can help and do less of it? Yes, but there's so many of them to name, and they won't do it as well because they'll only remove a single debuff or a random debuff here or there, or a debuff off of one champion. They don't do it off of everyone. These champions that we're doing today, they remove it from everybody. That's the whole premise of today's video, and we're going to start with the rares. And our first one is a champion that is actually really easy to get because you can farm her in the campaign. Therefore you can farm books for her in the campaign as well, so she's easy to book. Anybody can get her at any level and she will help you. Now this is she's really important for people who are coming up through the arena struggling against higher teams. They're probably going first, they're probably going faster. If you can farm an immunity set for this girl, she'll help you get back in the fight. So what does she do? Well, on her A1 she attacks one enemy and heals by 50% of the damage inflicted, so she helps keep herself up. That's great. So you build her with a bit of decent attack and all the rest of it. Obviously you want to keep her in the fight, so I'd say defense stats are probably the main way to go, but still build her with some crit, build her with some okay quick damage, and she'll help heal herself up as well, which also keeps her up. So it's a two-way street whilst also doing damage to enemies. So she places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Again, she's easy to book, so you can get that 3-turn cooldown, no worries with this champion. Really cool. Obviously there's plenty of champions that do this and other stuff if you've got them later in the game, epics, legendaries, but that's not the point. We're looking at champions at different rarities so that they can help you at different levels of the game. And then on her A3, this is the big one, she's got Dark Gift, removes all debuffs on all allies and places a block debuff on all allies for 1 turn. It's only for 1 turn, but again, you take the right mastery, you can increase, there's a chance of increasing that to 2 turns. This is on a 5-turn cooldown when booked. Not the best, but certainly not bad. And again, if you use her in the arena, chances are the fight's over within 5 or 6 turns anyway. But she gives you that chance to come back in the fight, get her in the immunity set, somebody comes along, puts all this stuff on you, you come along, rip it all off, gives your team a fighting chance. Absolutely brilliant. To top it all off, this girl comes with an increased ally speed in all battles by 10%. It's the lowest in the game. But again, if you've got nothing, it will still help. Personally, you should really already have high cartoons. You get her pretty early on in the game for free. She's your better speed lead. I'd put her in the lead and have this girl following up somewhere. But block debuffs again also means they can't come back at you and put other debuffs on you, so she's great. Absolutely brilliant. For a free early champion, this girl can really help you early game. Next up we have, where is he? Here he is, Lizardman. It's Broadmoor's little brother, Gator. You can see why I say he's Broadmoor's little brother, because he's got the same skin and everything. They do like to do this. So on his A1, attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 50% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. That's nothing, we don't care about that, it doesn't really do all that much. His A2 on the other hand though is pretty decent. 4 turns, books down to 3, place an increased attack buff on all our allies for 2 turns, helping increase the damage you do with attack based champions. That's all good. Then on his A3, removes all debuff from all allies. He is one of the worst ones in this area, I would say, because he doesn't do anything else with it. Like the last one we looked at, Spirit Host, she at least puts a block debuffs, block debuffs buff on you. So yeah, I always struggle with that one too much.
What you say about my mama?
He's probably the worst of the bunch, but again, if you haven't taken the time to farm Spirit Host and you've pulled this guy, he can do the job for you as well. He can remove all debuffs from all allies. He can also do this in faction wars if you need him. So again, early stages of faction wars, he can help keep those debuffs off you. It's going to be helpful, it's going to be useful. He's also increasing attack, meaning that the rest of your champs do more damage. So definitely good. And next off, we're going to look at a champion in the Night Revenants faction. I believe it's this guy, but don't quote me on that. Yeah, Acolyte. So he looks a lot like Tomb Lord. Again, similar, same skin or whatever, or similar skin. His A1 attacks one enemy and fills this champion's turn meter by 25%. That's solid. His A2 attacks one enemy and has a 75% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter. So it's got a turn meter fill on 1 hit, turn meter decrease by 100% when booked, I believe. No, not quite. 90% when booked, but still pretty high. And then he can decrease 2 meter. The only thing with him is obviously it's still singles target stuff there. I'm not a huge fan. But then on his A3, again, he's not the best for it. He's got remove all debuffs on all allies, and only that on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. So not great, but he does also bring an increased ally attack in arena battles by 30%. So if you're using him for the arena to go second and you don't have anybody else, he can be your aura and increase the damage that your attack based champions are doing. So he does bring a couple of things there that you can use him for. And then last but definitely not least, in fact we left her the last because she is the best, we have a very well known champion, Reliquary Tender. Very cool looking champion, I have to say, and I absolutely love her kit. So on her A1, Warden's Staff attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance of placing a 25% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Bearing in mind decreased attack is very, very useful for clan boss as well. Alright, it's not a huge percentage chance to get it. 20 can be booked up by a further 30. Bring it up to 50, which isn't bad. It's only a 1-hitter though, so it's not the best. I wouldn't advise you going out and using her as your main decrease attack champion, but she can certainly help as a backup. And it is only the little version, bear that in mind, because she is a rare. Then on her A2, Tender's Watch removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a 15% continuous heal buff on them for 2 turns. This is a brilliant move. It's on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. This is one of those champions, very much like Apothecary, where I would say build her up. Don't sleep on her. Even endgame players with endgame kits will go to this champion for Doom Tower because she is brilliant. She has a great kit. She's got this removes all debuffs and places heals on everybody on her A2. Then on top of that, on her A3, revives an ally with 30% HP and fills their turn meter by 30% on a 5-turn cooldown when booked. You can't knock it. It's absolutely amazing. Brilliant champ. So if you've got, yes, she is void, therefore a bit harder to get, but if you get her, don't sleep on her, build her up. And again, you know, you're talking about the arena, that means she can revive people as well as healing them, as well as clearing all those debuffs off. So again, she's a great champion for it. She's got a good solid speed at 103, which makes it easier to build fast for the arena, which again is really useful. So we're going to move on to the epics now, and we are actually going to start off here since we're already in the faction, and we have Battle Sage, again another void champion. She's a cool champ. Her A1 attacks all enemies, which means she's viable for a stun set to help control people, but like I say, I wouldn't put her in the stun set personally. I'd be putting her in an immunity set if you're planning on using her. Then on her A2, Nature's Touch places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then removes all debuffs on all allies. This buff cannot be removed. So she puts an increased attack on everybody that cannot be removed, and she steals all the debuffs and just clears them away. Makes you all good and healthy and ready to go. Then on her A3, places a revive on death buff on a target ally for 3 turns. The target will instantly revive if killed. Again, very useful in the arena. This girl also comes with a fairly decent speed lead. Increase ally speed in all battles by 19%. I believe this is the same as High Cartoons. So if you've managed to pull this girl, she could be your speed lead, as well as clearing all those debuffs, as well as giving you a single target, not revive exactly, but sort of with a revive on death. Definitely a solid champion. Okay, she does not come with the turn meter increase that High Cartoon brings, so bear that in mind. But again, definitely a very solid champion, and this is in all battles, not just in the arena. Next up, I think we are going to go to Sacred Order, and we have Sanguinia. Sanguinia is a fairly new champion to the game, come out sometime in the last sort of 4 or 5 months. Not brand new, but relatively new. Definitely a very cool champion. You know, if you want to see an in-depth guide on this girl, go take a look over there. I've already done a guide on her. She is a really good champion. I really like her. Very useful in the Doom Tower. I've been using her a fair bit lately. We'll run through her skills quickly. Attacks one enemy 3 times on her A1, which again makes her viable for Fire Knight on the right affinities. And the new affinity she will be right for on 25, so bear that in mind. Each hit has a 20% chance of decreasing the duration of 2 random buffs on the target by 1 turn. That one doesn't really apply for Fire Knight, but it's still a very cool move. Does definitely help in the arena. Then Holy Blood on her A2 places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 1 turn and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. So you get the continuous heal and the block debuffs. Then on her A3, this is the big one, this is huge. Sacrificial Lamb attacks one enemy and has 100% chance when booked of transferring all debuffs from this champion to the target. So any debuffs on her, she's going to put on somebody she's hitting. This is also a hit, it's not just a cleanse, which is great. On top of that, it being a hit, she also removes all debuffs from all allies except for her. But she's already put any debuffs on from her onto the enemy, so she is still stripping the entire team. Absolutely amazing. This is brilliant. It's on a 4-turn cooldown when booked, and it's a really cool skill. She also has increased ally accuracy into Doom Tower battles by 55, and we all know how important accuracy is and how high the requirements are in Doom Tower. Next up, we are going to have a look at the Barbarians, I believe. One of my favourite ones. She is a Void champion, I will say that straight off. Very chilly lady here. Interesting champion with all this like scars, burns, tattoos, all this stuff, as well as this strange bird costume, because she's obviously a bit, you know, nuts in the headlight.
Now I have a cute little squirrely really do pet and love and church and squeeze!
But we'll forgive her that one because she's actually a very cool champion. So A1, Talon Knives, attacks all enemies, heals by 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion has less than 50% HP. Boosts this champion's turn meter by 20% instead if the champion has 50% HP or higher. So she does a turn meter increase on herself or heals herself. That's really cool. And it's also an AOE, so hits everybody. Again, I'd still put her in the immunity set, not in the stun set, but each to their own. You can use her either way, and she's still a very cool champion. Her A2, Immortal Skies, removes all debuffs from all allies and then places a revive on death buff and a block debuff buff on all allies for 2 turns. So she has the big girl version of this move. Battle Sage, who's also a Void champion, I will say, and I do feel they should maybe buff Battle Sage and give her an AOE version of a revive. She strips all debuffs, places a revive on death on all allies and a block debuff, so they can't be getting any more debuffs, and if they get killed they're coming back up. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. This is on a 4-turn cooldown when booked, definitely not something to knock. Then she has this passive, Bloodstained Ritual, damages his champion by 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn. You know, it sounds bad, but it's not as bad as it sounds. Heals all allies except for this champion equal to half of the lost HP. Places a 30% decreased speed debuff on this champion for 1 turn at the start of each turn. Also has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on this champion for 1 turn. This can be a bit of a pain, but she is still one of the best healers in the game. Lots of people love her for this move because she just heals for bombs. You build her with masses of HP, and she's healing for 5% of that every turn, as well as bringing all the rest of this stuff that she brings. Now if you put her in the immunity set for at least 3 turns, she's not going to be suffering from the decreased speed or the fear, so you get a double bonus there, as well as being able to come back at people in the arena. So yeah, all good there. And then she also has an aura that increases ally HP in all battles by 25. Again, that's big, it's huge. She's a great champion, don't sleep on her. I'll actually be doing a guide on her in the near future, and I'd like you to take a look at that. And then last but definitely not least, well, not entirely last either, we have One of the best healers in the game, to my mind, and best debuff strippers. Mausoleum Mage, everybody's heard of this guy. You all know who he is. Everybody loves to pair him with a seer if you happen to be lucky enough to have one. I don't, not on my main account anyway. I do on my alt. It's fun, it's great, it's brilliant. Unfortunately, I don't have a Mausoleum Mage on my alternate account, which is really annoying because they pair so great together. There are some other champions that can help and do well, but not quite as well as this guy. So, Soul Manacles attacks one enemy and has a 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff. You can book that up to 50. Decreased speed is great, quite frankly, and on an A1, it's just a solid A1. It's not amazing, but it is solid. Then you've got Might of Undeath. This is a brilliant move, and it's the one that's used with Seer most. Places a 30% increased crit rate buff, a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also places a block debuff buff on all allies for 1 turn. So in one move he's just placed 3 huge buffs on your entire team. This is on a 3-turn cooldown when booked, which is brilliant, absolutely amazing. So, you know, if he's on the team and you're getting this out regularly, you can build champions with slightly lower crit rate, or if you've had to build them with slightly lower crit rate because you couldn't quite get there, you know, you're at 95, 80 odd, but you've got good solid crit damage. You put in this guy on the team to help you out, especially in arena. He's also going to be doing this, so therefore you're then probably going to have 100% crit rate, which is great. Then on top of that, to top it all off, he comes in with his Winds of Purging, removes all debuffs from all allies, and then heals all allies by 10% of this champion's max HP. So you build him with really high HP, he heals by 10% of that HP, which is just huge, and then he heals each ally by a further 10% if 1 or more debuffs are removed. This can be a really big heal. Fills each ally's turn meter by 15% if 2 or more debuffs are removed from that ally. So, you know, if 1 debuff is removed, they get a 20% heal. If 2 debuffs are removed, they get a 20% heal and a 15% increased turn meter. You can increase the heal percentage by a further 30%, and he's got a cool. You can bring this down to a 4-turn cooldown. This guy is absolutely amazing. Again, I've done a guide on this guy. Go take a look at it over there. Absolutely amazing champion. One of my favourite epics in the game. You don't hear this guy talked about anywhere near enough. He is just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He'll solidly support you anywhere, and he's a great solid support. Good for arena defense, good for arena offense. If you know, you do what I was saying, put him in the immunity set, he comes along, he steals all those buffs off, cleanses your team, puts all these other buffs on them, making them even stronger, especially if you have a defensive based team. They're going to hit harder, so it's the same as an increased attack if you're using defense based champions. So absolutely brilliant. You cannot sleep on this guy, he's just so cool. Next up, what we have is an honorary mention. They're a champion that it falls into that category of they only remove 1 debuff, so I'm not mentioning those champs, but this champ is so good at it and used just about everywhere that I felt I had to kind of mention her, so we are going to. So next up we have Doom Priest. Doom Priest is in the Night Revenant. She's a Force Affinity champion, and you've probably heard a lot about her recently because she's used all over the place. She's actually used in some unkillable compositions because of her cleansing debuffs and whatnot. Attacks 1 enemy. If the hit is critical, places a 15% increased crit rate buff on a random ally for 2 turns. This one's kind of neither here nor there. I wouldn't count on it. I wouldn't worry about it. It's random, so you can't control it anyway. You don't really care about it. It is what it is. I just, yeah. A2 though, it's fairly decent. Again, it could be slightly better, I'd say, and I wouldn't mind if they buff this a little bit to do something else as well. Place a 15% increase attack buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. It's solid, it's good. If you're using attack based champions, which is going to help you increase your damage, great. Here's where everybody uses her and why they use her. Bolster her passive. Heals all allies by 7.5% of their HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn on every turn. So every time there's a tick of anything, she just removes a random debuff. The reason I prefer the likes of these AOE removers, particularly for, say, the Nether Spider in Doom Tower is because they will remove all those debuffs. So you've got like 4 poisons on you that you've had put on you, they will come along and rip them all off. Her, on the other hand, she's only going to remove 1 at a time. Having said that, this little 7.5% heal at the start of every turn can sort of help you tick over and stack up. You pair it with somebody else who does an AOE strip and you're golden. You're going to just be keeping everything off. She's a good solid champion that a lot of people like to use these days for that reason. She's got an increased speed aura, but it's only for force allies in all battles by 15%, so I don't think it's personally a very good one. I wish they'd actually change that to just all allies, and it's not a big number anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. It wouldn't damage the game to just change that slight bit, it'd just improve it slightly. Who is he? I don't have this chap, as you can see. Runekeeper Das Dirk. I assume I've said that right. He's a bit of a moody looking chap. I mean, all you can see is the white of his eyes. He kind of looks like a zombie dwarf or something, but definitely a bit of a moody chap. Got a bit of an attitude going on. You know, we like people with attitude on this channel. We don't care, you know, attitude's fun.
Nobody tosses a dwarf.
So, anyway, his A1 Siphon symbol attacks one enemy and has a 35% chance, 45 when booked, of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns on the A1. Leech A1s are solid. I really love those. You pair them with a counter attack champion, you're keeping that leech up out there, and it helps heal your entire team. Leech is an absolutely brilliant ability that I just love to have on champions. So it's a good A1. Rune of Battle places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns, then fills the turn meters of all allies by 25%. This is what I mean by some of these champions that only have increased attack and that's it, and as you saw it even on the likes of Doom Priest, who's an epic, you know, rares are doing that sort of thing. And fair enough on a rare, but on an epic I really feel they should go back through, and some of these older champions that were a bit outdated like Doom Priest, do something like this where you also boost turn meter on the increased attack or something else. Like I say, she's actually used for unkillable, so boosting turn meter is not necessarily a good thing for her, but she could do something else as well, even place an increased defense, so she does increase defense and increased attack, therefore usable with both types of champions. That would actually increase her value immensely and be a really solid buff to her without making her broken. So sorry for the side rant, but yeah, so he places the increased attack and then fills turn meters by 25%. This is on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. Absolutely brilliant ability, you can't knock it at all. Then on his A3, Purity Sigil removes all debuffs from all allies, then heals all allies by 25% of this champion's max HP. Build them up for high HP, and you've got a solid heal there. So it's 25%, plus it can be booked up by a further 20%, so you know, you're talking about 65% of this champion's max HP heal. You get his HP up there, 60, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000 if you can do it, you know. He's going to do some massive heals for you. That is absolutely brilliant on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Places a 15% continuous heal buff for 2 turns on all allies that have a debuff removed. So he goes out there, he strips, does a huge heal, and then puts a heal on them as well if he's managed to strip stuff. Can't knock it. Absolutely brilliant champion. I would love to get my hands on this guy. I think he's just great. Increase ally attack in all battles by 25%. Again, it's a solid aura. So we're now going to move on to the legendaries, and we're going to start with the chap I've got, and I will be doing a guide on quite soon. Skartorsis. He's a bit of an old school champ, pretty cool looking champ I suppose, although I suppose we're getting better these days and they look even cooler. But yeah, he's a nifty looking champion. Hand of Doom, his A1 attacks all enemies and has a 30% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each enemy. This can be booked up by a further 20%, so you know, he's got a 50% chance of stealing a random buff on his A1 that's hitting everybody, so that's actually pretty solid. It's not amazing, but it's a really solid A1. Then we've got command level. I don't know what these level 1s and stuff means. I wish somebody had explained that stuff to me. It's just weird. So command, place a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. you know, it's not the most amazing ability out there. Again, it's more almost epic-ish or esque than it is legendary, I'd say. It could do with maybe another buff being thrown in there. You look at somebody like Mausoleum Mage, he does a similar sort of thing, only he has 3. So this guy who's legendary doesn't, and new champions are all getting loads more than that. So this is why he doesn't get a lot of play. You don't see him in a lot of places these days. Rebirth heals all allies, then removes all debuffs from them. The amount by which the ally is healed increases according to the number of debuffs on them. The amount by which each ally's turn meter is filled increases according to the number of debuffs on them. So he boosts your turn meter, heals everybody with his A3. The only negative is, even after booking, it's on a 5-turn cooldown, which is a bit crap, and a heal can be booked by a further 15%. It's a really solid ability though. It's a really good AOE cleanse. You cannot knock it. The only problem is, like I say, you could probably do with buffing a little bit. Add something to the A2, one little buff or something. I think you're golden. Bring this turn meter down by the cooldown down by 1 turn, and I think he's then a really solid champion. You're talking 6 down to 4. For a legendary, it makes sense. A lot of sense really, and I wish they'd look at this one. Then he's got an aura that increases ally speed in dungeons by 33%. This is one of the largest, if not the largest, speed increase in dungeons in the game. So don't knock it, don't forget about it. And actually, bearing in mind that your speed requirements and all the rest of it may well go up quite dramatically with these new extra 5 levels of dungeons coming out, this guy could be big as a speed lead for you there, whilst also healing you and buffing your whole team, and stripping debuffs off of enemies. So, you know, he's certainly not one of the top champions out there, but definitely worth looking at. Next up, just having a look, do we have anybody else in the undead? We actually do, so we're not going to move away from here. I was going to save him for last. A champion that's been on my wish list for a long time. I would love to have this guy. I think he is so cool. Bad Alcazar. He's actually one of the old school champions again, but still very, very cool. His A1, Dark Sphere, attacks all enemies, heals this champion and all allies by 20% of the damage inflicted. This guy can actually put out some pretty solid damage. He can actually solo Dragon at level 20. So, you know, he's an amazing champion. He can solo the Minotaur, I believe, as well. So again, a really, really solid champion. I would love to have this guy. Don't have him. When we had a chance to get him, I was pulling like no tomorrow. I spent money I shouldn't have spent just trying to get this guy because he is that good. That's his A1. Oh, just to say quickly, you can increase the damage by what, 20%, but the heal can also be increased by 20% as well, so that's a 40% heal, not a 20, which is even better. Then Malice, his A2, removes all debuffs from all allies and places 2 continuous heal buffs on all allies for 2 turns. Places 2 5% poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. This is absolutely amazing. Big heals, puts out poison, which is great in the clan boss and on many bosses and stuff like that, the dragon. And you think he can be used with people like Xavier to blow up poisons, and he's putting out 2 of them. That's great. And it's 2 poisons on all enemies, so like I say, I would love to have this guy. And then this is the other huge part about him, although every part about this guy is really just huge. He's that good. Prey upon his passive, all allies inflict 20% more damage against targets under poison debuffs. That's amazing. So even when he's not got a poison, you pair him with another poisoner as well, and the poisons are always up. You're always going to be doing 20% extra damage. You can't knock it. It's just huge, and this is why this guy is a part of many speedruns. Then he's got an aura that increases ally crit rate in all battles by 25%. Again, not huge. Most people don't run crit rate auras, but if you're struggling for your crit rate, you can always go that route if you've got this guy, and he'll certainly help you out. So next up, we're going to go to the Bannerlords. And we have Raglan. Absolutely amazing champion, one of the best revivers in the game. Again, another champion I don't have that I'd love to have. Would help my faction immensely. The A1 attacks one enemy 3 times, fills the turn meters of 3 random allies by 15%. Allies can only have their turn meter filled once per turn by this skill. Because it's random, that's a bit naff, but you know, it's still really solid. Also good for the Fire Knight to help you get through shields as well as being your reviver there. Then Array 2 Mercy removes all debuffs on all allies, then heals them. The heal amount is proportional to this champion's attack. So you build her with big attacks as she's doing more damage. She also then does bigger heals. You can also book up the heal as well by a further 30%. Then Array 3 revives an ally with 75% HP and full turn meter on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. 2 turns, can you believe it? That's absolutely bonkers. Then she's got an aura that increases allied defense in all battles by 33%. So a really solid aura too. Like I say, just one of the better champions in the game, and I would definitely love to have her. You know, she's a great champion. Can't knock her at all. Next up, we are going to Skinwalkers, and we're looking at Hakorn Smashlord. Pretty cool looking champion, looks like your typical old Minotaur. He has an A1 Inhuman Force, attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. It's neither here nor there, it's pretty decent. It also books up by a further 15%, taking it to 55. The A2, however, Rallying Below, removes all debuffs from all allies and then places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. Heals all allies by 15% of this champion's HP. Heals each ally by an extra 10% of this champion's max HP for each debuff removed from them. Whew, that was a bit of a mouthful. So, this is on a 4-turn cooldown. It is a solid ability, and will help you get through so much, and again can be used in the arena for the same reason, same way. This guy's speed's a bit lower, so he's not the most ideal for that one, but if you've got him, he's definitely not a champion to sleep on. Again, you can book the healer. It's A3, Blood Offering, sacrifices HP equal to 25% of this champion's max HP, then attacks all enemies. Damage inflicted is equal to 50% of this champion's max HP. This attack is always a normal hit. The HP sacrifice will happen even if it kills his champion. I can't really say much about this ability, I don't know how good it is. It sounds good, but then I'm not a big fan of abilities that kill people, so kill yourself. So it could be good in certain situations. In certain situations it's going to do you itself in, so I don't know. It's on a 4-turn cooldown though, but he's definitely a fairly decent champion. I don't have him, so I can't try him out and tell you. And then last but not least, we are going to the Sacred Order, one of my most wanted champions in the game, very newly introduced to the game, one of the coolest looking champions in the game, Cardial. He's got the halo, the golden armour, the blue shining eyes, the blue flaming sword. Absolutely amazing aesthetic on this guy. And then we've got an A1, Cow the Wicked, attacks one enemy and heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP. For an A1, that is just really solid. Also places a True Fear debuff for 1 turn if the target is a champion from the Demon Spawn, Undead Horde or Knights Revenant faction. It's a little bit of an odd one, that one, but still very cool and nice to have. And one I keep forgetting, I must remember not to use these guys against him. You can boost the heal up by a further 20% as well as the damage by a further 20%, but he does take a lot of books being a new champion, this guy. 6 on the A1 alone. Only 1 on the A2 at least. Angel Song removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a block debuffs buff and a revive on death buff on all allies for 2 turns. The revive on death buffs cannot be removed. That is absolutely huge. This is on a 3-turn cooldown when booked, so you can't even remove these revive on death buffs. I mean, to be fair, I think that's kind of broken, actually, to be fair. But, you know, and it's one of the reasons I really want this guy. He's just insane, and I hate facing him. He's probably the newest champion to the game, that if I see him on a team, 90% of the time I'm like, do I want to give it a try? Do I not? He's actually the one champion I fear above all others at the moment. He's just bonkers. Then we've got Heavenly Host. His A3 places an increased crit rate buff and a 30% increased crit damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Then teams up with all allies to attack a target enemy. So you've already got the Revive on Death, AOE Cleanse, which is just amazing. Then on top of that, he's an ally attack champion. He's the champion that keeps on giving, and he's certainly, like I say, terrifying to face. So he teams up with 2 allies to attack target enemy, decrease the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if an enemy is killed from this attack. So then it's on a 4-turn cooldown when booked, and actually if you manage to kill somebody, it's then on a 3-turn cooldown. Therefore coming back around again even quicker, which is just bonkers. Absolute bonkers. So he's passive, Fiend Warden, also allies receive 20% less damage from champions from the Demon Spawn, Undead Hordes or Night Revenants factions. I've really got to remember not to use those guys against him, and remember this bit because it is a serious part of his kit. Whenever an ally attacks, has a 15% chance to team up with them and join their attack. This champion will attack with their default skill. Always join Sisia Flametongue's attacks if they are on the same team. Can only join an ally's attack once per turn. Cardial will not team up on ally attacks when they counter attack or when they team up to attack with another champion. So he does an ally attack anyway, and then also has another 15% chance on any turn to just ally attack with somebody, one other person. It's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. This guy is nuts. Like I say, probably one of the best champions in the game, and I would love to have him. He's got an aura that increases ally speed in all battles by 19%. Not huge, but again, considering the bonkers kit he's already got, it's just mental. So anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it gave you some real insight. The main theme here, obviously, was the AOE debuff strip, cleanse, if you will, on all your allies, which is just huge. It just keeps everybody clear, gets all that bad stuff off of them, and like I say, it is big for current content in the Doom Tower. It's big for the arena and can really help you if you've got a defensive based team to stay in the fight and win if you're not going fast and you're trying to go second method. Don't forget, you still need to build these champions fairly fast. The champions like Cardial here are absolutely brilliant for it. Scartorsis is bloody brilliant for it as well. He's got one of the highest speeds in the game, I believe. I might be wrong. I think he's about 107, 109, something like that. This guy's 106, so good high speeds help means that it's easier to build them to go fast, and even if you're not going to go first, if you can go second, you can help keep your team up, help keep them in the fight, strip them all of all that bad stuff and get them going, and this guy is just bonkers to boot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know it's a good video and more people should watch it. And if you like watching my content, please hit the subscribe button, ding that bell, and you'll get notified next time I release a video. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.